Hello everybody, welcome to a little analysis kind of segment, little playlist of videos that I wanted to make for Stage 2 of the Overwatch League, kind of conceptualizing and kind of archiving some really cool and interesting plays that I thought were noteworthy. So today I wanted to talk about Feints and how Mano in this match between New York and Boston uses the information that he gathers to, conceptually help his team's future attacks on the point going forward, right? So to explain what a feint is, right? In martial arts, or primarily more in boxing, and you could be used elsewhere as well. It's more of a euphemism at this point. A feint is something that necessarily isn't a direct kind of action between two people. It's more of a movement or a some sort of gesture that is supposed to be off-center in hopes to kind of gain information and gain data, right? So an example of this might be if a boxer lowers his hands, or if he throws like an off-center punch, or maybe he throws his hands, wide or to the left or to the right. It's just there to see how the opponent reacts. Does he counterpunch? Does he sidestep? Does he, step back? What exactly are his patterns? What are some interesting things that, the opponent tends to do, right? So here what we're going to pay attention to is we're going to watch Mano solo dive the point in hopes to kind of draw Boston back into a more of a defensive position so that Libero, Jonak, and Arc can take the high ground and be able to pressure the spawns and the low ground from the high ground, right? The idea of Hanamura B is that you have to get through this hallway of doom. This hallway is a pain to get through. It's not fun. It takes a lot of coordination because if you all just bum rush to the high ground up here, then you're in for a bad time. You're clumped up. You could get dragon bladed. You could get pulse bombed. I mean, heck, you could just get cleaved by D.Va and Winston. So it's not something that you really want to do. It just solo, like as a team, push through this hallway. What tends to happen is the Winston maybe, comes from the low ground and attacks from a different angle. Same thing could happen with the D.Va. And you just want to, operate from different angles and not just all come down one lane of attack, right? But what's interesting is Mano really isn't going to attack with his team, but he's going to kind of play this flanking Winston almost, right? It's very similar to maybe something Fraggy might do. But he's going to come down here and leap onto the point to pressure the point again in hopes to draw Boston back. Now, without further ado, let's take a peek and see exactly what he does. So he drops down here. If we pause here, we can see him right here. Striker and Dreamcasper do know about this, and they are kind of quick on the mark. And now the solo dive. And here's where Boston has a choice, right? They can either drop back. Primarily, they can send Note and Striker to attack Mano, which means that they kind of have forfeited the high ground, which is exactly what New York wants them to do. But what does happen instead is that Boston flips the switch and dives directly onto New York. Straight in. They do force the trans with Dreamcasper's Dragon Blade, which is a fine trade. Support ultimates are probably one of the bigger and more valuable resources that you can have in the game right now. So it's a fine trade. You would like your Dragon Blades to get a lot of value, but I think the value is burning the support ultimate. But this isn't the only time he decides to feint. By he, I mean Mano. The fight gets cleaned up, and we'll skip on to the next fight. And the same thing's going to happen. Mano's going to dive the point, exactly kind of assess the situation. Let's see what Boston has to do here. You're basically posing questions to your opponent. Say, okay, what's the answer to this question? I'm going to dive the point. What are you going to do? Do they peel back? Do they attack forward? The good thing about Boston, and kudos to Huck here, is that they do attack forward and they take the uneven fight and they pressure ultimates out, which is something that you want to you take those trades every day of the week. But it's interesting because all of this information can be used in their next match, right? So when New York plays Boston, if they play on Hanamura again, you can tell exactly what Boston's tendencies are. So they do want to play a little bit more aggressive. They are very, high tempo, dive oriented. Look at their composition. They play the Tracer, they play the Genji. They play just very standard dive. It's nothing fancy. It's very textbook. It's by the book. They just want to go forward. They just want to dive targets and kill them one by one. And what New York's doing here, again, is just collecting information, collecting data. What's interesting about this map is that it takes New York quite a long time to break the point. It's difficult to attack this point. It's a very defensible position. There's not a lot of lanes of attack here. But yeah, no, it was just a really kind of interesting little technique that I thought Mano and New York as a whole had a really cool grasp of some interesting macro strategy, and just wanted to highlight that and say attaboy New York. So till next time, guys, I will talk to you later.